Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Blank Pages with our special host, Jason Pinter. Welcome.
Woo! A TikTok star
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
I think that's
By the way,
most of us.
that's the strangest thing anyone has ever said about me in my entire life. So,
You're welcome.
Wait to the end of the podcast. There may be
I was
more.
like, yeah, I was
Okay.
like,
we'll have like the top 10. Okay.
It's wonderful to have you on, but do you mind just introducing yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Jason Pinter, aka A.L. Brody. I'm the author as Jason Pinter of a number of thriller novels, including Hideaway and A Stranger at the Door. As A.L. Brody, my alter ego, I'm the author of Dating and Dismemberment, a monster rom-com. I am the author of, I think, 10 books, I think, at this point. I'm also the founder and publisher of Polis Books, which is an independent publishing house. On TikTok, I am Jersey Book Guy, and I kind of have no idea how I ended up here, but I think that's probably a good thing. So,
I have so many questions, as I'm sure the audience does. But I think like the first one on everybody's mind is like monster rom-com. What happened?
Tell
what
us more.
inspired you? Yes.
yeah.
So I talked about this a little. Basically, I was in sort of like a bit of a weird place in my life, in my career. I had written a couple books, Hideaway and A Stranger at the Door, which I loved to death, and they had done well. They'd gotten some award nominations, hit a couple of bestseller lists, and my publisher dropped them. They were traditionally published, and I was like, what the hell? So I was really kind of down in the dumps, not knowing where my career was going. I was sort of like still kind of like the tail end of the pandemic, I guess. And I just like, I need to write something. I've written a lot of really dark stuff recently. I need to write something that will make me happy, that will just like bring me joy while I write it. And I'm a huge fan of monster movies and monster books. And I have a really soft spot for romances too. And it's just like almost like a light bulb click. It was like, I want to write a romantic comedy, but about two monsters, enemies to lovers who hate each other with a passion to start with and gradually fall in love. And I wanted to create this whole monster world, and I set it at a summer camp. And just the idea of these two bickering monsters fighting over the right to haunt a summer camp, and they all have lives beyond that. My main character, Darla Drake, aka the Duchess of Death, lives with the decapitated head of her mother. How she's decapitated and still alive, you'll have to read the book to understand. It's like Livia Soprano, if you've seen The Sopranos, but as a head. So it's like living with your overbearing mother who just happens to be a head. But she's got this best friend, and the best friend is getting married and having a baby, and she's like, what am I doing with my life? So the idea of creating this whole world, almost like a grown-up Monsters Inc. With a lot more like kissing and limbs flying around the place. That just the idea of that was just like a light bulb went off. I was like, this, I will have so much freaking fun writing this. I had no idea if anyone would ever read it besides myself. I had no idea how to market it. I had no idea how to publish it. I knew I wanted to publish it on my own because I didn't think anybody would get it. And I happened to start getting more active on TikTok at that time, really just sort of like having fun and just being goofy. And it was like a creative outlet for me. And like, lo and behold, I started to build up an audience. I was like, wait a minute, like this is my potential readership. If they like the sort of weird nonsense that I'm doing on TikTok, I think they'll like this book. And lucky enough for me, a lot of people have. And then there are a lot of people who are just like, who is this guy and what's he doing?
I love that for so many reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that a lot of like houses and stuff like that say like, oh, we can't shop that. We can't shop that. But that market is out there. People love monster stuff. They love all this kind of stuff. And it's just crazy that they don't really try to even market it. I'm like, dude, that's like a huge fan base right there. You got like monsters and like, I'm like, people are like, I'm in. On TikTok, what decided, because I know what, like I started getting like your TikToks that were like especially like men writing women and like,
They're my favorite.
Those cracked me up so much. So what made you like, what was the inspiration to get behind those? And like, you knew that this is a hit, like people.
Oh man. So I think I opened my account maybe like 2-3 years ago. And I was like one of those people, I opened a TikTok account and just let it sit there. I didn't know how to use it. I'm also like not a super young dude. So it was like, are people my age even on this thing? And then I started to post videos where it's like, hey, I'm Jason reading my book, or hey, I like readers, come follow me. And it was just like bland and vanilla. And I always got a kick out of the absolutely absurd ways that a lot of men wrote women, especially because I write a lot of thrillers. Like, no offense to a lot of dudes, but there's some dumb male writers who write women, and I just got such a kick out of these. And I don't know if we're allowed to like curse on here or anything like that.
Oh,
You
yeah,
but-
please
totally
don't.
can, and you
Yeah.
can also be offensive if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
The
not
bouncing of-
offensive to me.
The
So
mounting of
there's
boobs
one
that
there-
men
there's
love.
there's an infamous passage by a New York Times bestselling writer, a really popular guy, who wrote about like they found a body of a woman and they investigated her and they found that she kept a small purse and a credit card inside her vagina. And I'm like, have you ever
Yeah.
met a woman before? It's like things like that. And I'm just like, so I was like, I'm gonna take that and just pretend to be this guy writing women, because obviously these people have never met a woman, have never like slept with a woman, have never spoken to a woman. So this is what it's like. And like, lo and behold, like I think, the first one I think got like 50,000 views. And I think at that point I'd never gotten more than like 4,000 views. And my sister like knows TikTok a little bit than I was. And I was like, her name is Allie. I was like, Allie, I think this is getting kind of popular. And I think the next day it was at like 100,000, then 150,000. I was like, people like this. And then it just snowballed, and I had so much fun doing it. I started creating characters and like and it went from like just men writing women to like, women writing fantasy boyfriends, and men writing and men trying to write romance and erotica. And I just had like, it was this perfect like, I guess, storm, because people liked it, but I had so much fun doing it. And it really became sort of a creative outlet. And all these people say like, promoting a book is exhausting. It's like you have to be out there and be on all the time. And I was like, honestly, I look forward to this. Like, if I have an idea for a new sketch, like, and I get to like sit down and write a little script, like I have so much fun doing that. So it really like, it gave me this creative outlet I hadn't had before. And it just happened to coincide with the upcoming release of Dating and Dismemberment. And I was like, people like this stuff. I think I could get them to try out this crazy, insane thing that I never thought anyone would read.
There's actually a Japanese saying about that, and that's why I love this so much. It's the things that you love that bring you joy, that can also
Mhm.
bring others joy, that can give you a living. Like there's an actual word for it. I forget what it is. It was an audio on TikTok. And
It's not Schadenfreude, that's German.
yeah. And literally it's wonderful that you can find your passion and then it just flows and grows, especially like on this platform where you get to engage with people. So I'm like a TikTok fan. I love TikTok. And just to repeat it, you are Jersey Book Guy
Jersey
on
Book
TikTok,
Guy, yeah.
and everybody should go follow you.
Absolutely.
Wait,
I know.
I'm gonna go back to the beginning, because my original name was not Jersey Book Guy. My original handle was, I think it was Book Daddy. And and my sister, who knows, because I write books and I have 2 daughters, and I did not get
that
the
is
connotation
not-
at first.
That's what we thought.
So my sister texted me and she's like, I think you should change your handle. And I was like, why? I was like, it's kind of sexual.
It
And
is.
I was like, and so that's how I ended up with Jersey. I was
I don't know,
Book
it kinda
Daddy. and then-
fit.
I
Yeah.
love that your sister's there for you. Did she read your book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she's read this one. I don't think so. I'd have to ask her. And she's read some of the other ones. I don't think she's read this one. But she's sort of like the like little, I don't say angel on my shoulder, but she knew TikTok better than I did at the time, and she thinks it's the absolute funniest thing that I've actually become like had built like a readership on there. She thinks it's absolutely hilarious.
I love it. My sister actually got me onto TikTok. She is 14, but I still was so happy. It's about 5 years ago, or no, only 4 years ago, right around the pandemic. She'd been trying to get me on. And I was like, you know what? I'm sad and, and I want people in my life. So I'll give this a go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I think everyone during the pandemic, it was like a really lonely time, and we didn't see our friends, we didn't see family or like something like FaceTime, and the only people you really
Wait,
kind of speaking to
That's
regularly.
different from it. Yeah, writer's life period. Isn't that our life?
Yeah, but I
was
think
like,
it's
there
sort
was
of like
Yeah.
it's weird though, because it's like with the writer's life, you choose that. It's sort of not thrust upon you, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Where like you're like when I'm writing a book, I'm like I'm holding up in my office, I'm closing the door, I'm putting in my headphones, and that's my choice. And every now and then I'll be like, hey, I want to go out and get a couple drinks with friends, or I want to go into like I'm about an hour outside New York City. I'll drive into New York City for like a book signing or something. When you don't have those opportunities, that's when it starts to feel lonely. It's okay, I like to be alone by choice, but not for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that loneliness sort of creeps in, and the only people you speak to regularly are the people that you happen to meet online. And like I'm very fortunate that I met this group of like total absolute weirdos who I love.
Yeah. That's a romance in and of itself, a different
Yes.
kind of romance, but it is, and I love it.
Yeah.
Can we switch gears a little bit to the business side of things? Because you said
Mhm.
that you're the owner of a publishing company.
Mhm.
Tell us more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny because I had this whole background in writing and publishing before I even got to TikTok. So I feel like most people on here knew me through like Jersey Book Guy and Dating and Dismemberment, but I worked in corporate publishing, traditional publishing for a long time. About 10 years ago, I founded an independent press called Bolus Books, basically because I wanted to be in charge of what I publish. I love sort of genre fiction, so it's a lot of mysteries and thrillers and horror and fantasy. And so it's weird to sort of wear two hats. And it's weird because I try to keep them separate because I don't want people to think that I use my publishing. I don't publish my books through my publishing house because I don't want it to be like vanity press. But being sort of like an indie author, it's such a different set of muscles than being traditionally published. And I really had to learn a lot of that from people like you guys who have done it so successfully. I came into it, like at the starting line at 0, and you guys are at 60, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? So a lot of what I did to market Dating and Dismemberment was not stuff that I could rely on through my background to traditional publishing, because like it's not getting reviewed in the New York Times. I'm not going on I'm probably not going to go on like a big blog tour or things like that. But what do independent authors do to make their books successful? What can I emulate, and what can I do my own little twist on to hopefully stand out a little bit?
Can I also ask you, what is your
Mm-hmm.
definition of success now in the industry? Because you have so much experience, and I'm sure when you came in, there was a definition that you had, and like, has it changed or
Yeah.
has it stayed the same?
Oh man, I think it's gonna be different from everyone. And I think as long as I get to keep writing, and obviously, to talk business, it has to be financially viable. I think if you're spending however many hundreds of thousands or hours a year writing, and you're making $500 a year, and that comes out to like 0.00001 cent an hour, you have to step back and think, what am I neglecting? And so to me, it's really just, can I sell enough books to warrant the amount of time each book takes, both to write and to market and to promote and to keep promoting and all of that. So I think that's kind of really it, is that I don't know where my career goes from here. I think Dating and Dismemberment has done way better than I thought it would, mainly because I had no expectations going in. And so that book to me is a success. I mean, it's not Haunting Adeline, it's not Colleen Hoover, but that book to me was a success in terms of what it did for my mental health and the fact that I have made some money off of it. Hey,
Also,
like it's
just to
paid
say,
it's paid the mortgage.
keeping an
Yeah.
optimistic mindset, both Colleen Hoover and Haunting Adeline, those were older titles that got that. So
Yeah.
it's not them yet. It's not them yet. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's not them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love
It's
that
not them
answer.
yet. No,
Yeah.
But it's okay not to be them,
Yeah.
at all. Like,
It
you know,
is.
absolutely no.
your
You
own
have to forge
success.
your
I
own
think
path.
I
There
didn't
is
expect it to be
1% and
my
1%,
my pie in the sky was like, okay, like Legends and Lattes was sort of this off the beaten path fantasy with the twist. And it proved that there's a market for genre novels that are not like, people think fantasy, they're going to think 800-page epics and battles and all that. And Legends and Lattes is terrific. It's a girl trying to open a coffee shop. And that's the entire plot. And it's delightful. And I was like, if people are willing to take a chance on that, they'll take a chance on two monsters who hate each other fighting over a summer camp and falling in love, because people are open. And I don't think that book would have worked if it hadn't started on TikTok, because I think people on TikTok are willing to take chances on books that are off the beaten path. And that's part of why I think I love this community, is because there's no judgment. It's just like, hey, we'll give this a shot.
Also,
And I love
romance readers, this genre, because it is so prolific and they read so quickly, we are the number one romance, or the number one genre for readers reading outside of authors they know. Like they're more than
Yeah,
likely to pick
I
up
believe that.
a book regardless of whether or not they know the author, as opposed to like a thriller or fantasy even. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give our genre a little pat on the back. We're really
I
good
know.
at that.
Take them, have a drink.
Yeah, right. Cheers.
We do that a lot.
But I also love your definition of success, because a lot of people will say, like, I want to hit so many sales, or I want to make it to this list, or I want to, like, it's something that's quantified. And then once
Yeah.
you get it, after that
Now
celebratory
what?
moment, exactly, now
Yeah.
what?
Now what?
But if
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
goal is that, whatever that Japanese saying is, I got to look it up, because it is you personified. Like that is the energy I'm picking up. And that is what you've just defined as success, basically. Like, what can I make a living at while also fulfilling my passion
Yeah.
and my love of life? So I love that definition. So anybody listening, maybe rewind
Yeah.
and listen to that part again, because I thought it was awesome.
I mean, listen, if like Oprah calls and wants to pick this, like I will change my definition of success. Like that's
Real
success.
quick.
Oprah. Right now I'm good with this one, but if that changes, like I'm all for it.
Well, isn't that life though? We can never stay stagnant. We always have
Yes.
to like
Yeah.
success has to constantly change, especially in this industry.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Nothing stays the same
it
day to
is.
day.
No.
You know, like
Yeah, you guys
TikTok,
ever
I
watch?
feel. Okay.
Did you guys ever watch Mad Men?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched
a
the
great-
interior decorating of it on a subreddit.
It's probably just as enjoyable. But there's one line in it that I always think about, and I think Stacey, you said it perfectly. And at one point, Don Draper goes, "What is happiness? It's just a moment before you need more happiness." And I always think about that, because it's like once you hit that goal, if you hit the New York Times bestseller list or the USA Today bestseller list, so you hit X number of copies sold, it's like, okay, well, you achieve that goal, you're not dead. What do you do next? And
Well,
so
it's-
there's always
and
this
then-
sense of, yeah,
On top of that, it's not only do you need to achieve that again, but now I need a
Mhm.
little bit more.
Better.
So each
Yes.
time it's like, I need a little bit more. Okay, now it's like a drug, you know, like,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
that hit wasn't enough. Now I need even
Yep.
more. So
exactly right. And
that
if you
can
can't,
be so
and if
much
you can't
stress.
hit, and if
Yeah.
you can't hit that high again, you
like,
start to
I'm a
feel like a
loser.
failure. It's like, well, this book hit the New York Times bestseller list, but the sequel didn't. Does that mean I'm a failure? And that's when, like, and especially writers, because we can be so interior, it really
Mhm.
starts to kind of like mess with our
Neurotic.
heads.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
crazy.
seriously,
Yeah.
we're all total weirdos.
Imposter syndrome is prevalent. That's for
Ooh,
sure.
yes.
Yeah. And it
Yes.
absolutely doesn't mean that you're not successful if your second book doesn't do what your first book did, because so much changes so quickly in the industry. But if you don't have experience like we do, people don't know that. And I think that's why a lot of authors are almost like athletes. You have this very high career, and then you're gone. And nobody ever hears of you again. Like the burnout rate is so fast. And I think it is a matter of like expectations and what you're defining as success and whether or not you're in tune with the industry. And it seems like you're super in tuned on two different sides
Mhm.
of the playing field. So I would love to hear opinions about traditional versus the self-published, because it's a big
Mhm.
difference.
It's a very big difference. I mean, as you guys know, when you're doing a book yourself, every aspect of it is up to you. When you go traditional publishing, you sell the rights to your book to a publisher, and they will generally handle the editorial. They might have edits, you might have editorial notes, they'll handle copy editing, proofreading. They'll design a cover for you that you'll hopefully like. I've definitely been in situations where I've gotten some
You're
terrible
like,
covers that I had to like grit through my teeth and like, I love it. And I do really love it.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, and it's a partnership, and you sort of hope that partnership goes well, and then you hope that there's so many factors in traditional publishing that are out of your control, and they can
Mhm.
go well, but at the same time, like the number of copies printed are out of your control, where those copies go are out of your control, the kind of review coverage is generally going to be out of your control, the amount of people who get galleys is generally totally out of your control. And not to say that a publisher can't knock it out of the park, but it's really becoming an industry of haves and have-nots, where if you are not a, Read with Jenna pick or a Reese Witherspoon pick or a Good Morning America pick, it's like you have that level, and then it feels like kind of everybody else. And I'm not a Read with Jenna pick. Reese Witherspoon lost my number apparently. And it's sort of like, I don't, and this is where what happened to me with Hideaway with that series is I got dropped. and I had no control over it. And with Dating and Dismemberment, the part of the reason I did it on my own was like, I don't want to go out with this book, have it on submission for 6 months or a year, have 30 editors say I don't get it, or maybe I get lucky and one editor likes it, but then something happens and that book comes out and it does nothing, and I feel like I could have done better. So there's and I just felt like with this book, it was so personal and so weird to me. That's like, weird and weird to me are two different things. I just felt like I needed to be in charge of this book. And I felt very strongly about that. I had a specific vision of what I wanted the cover to be. And I felt like a publisher, not to say they would have screwed it up, but it was like, I just had a vision and I had to go with it.
You wouldn't have got that cover. Yeah. You wouldn't have got that cover. And most likely they would have asked you to change a character or cut a character out. And sometimes that is like no. These, this story it came to me as is. Like it just is.
Exactly.
So when, like I would be told like, no, sorry, we don't like this character. You got to change this part. I'd be like, nope.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got to hire the designer I wanted to illustrate the cover and jacket. And it's like, jumping off a cliff and you don't know if you're going to land on rocks or a mattress, but you can sort of hit in the middle, I guess. But I just knew with this book, I wanted to be in control of it. I had a specific vision of how I wanted it to be published. And for the most part, that's kind of how it came out. And I don't think that would have happened otherwise. There's certain books I've written where I was like, okay, the ceiling is much higher with traditional publishing. For this one, I felt that if there was a possibility for it to do well, it was going to be on my back rather than someone else's.
I don't know if you know this about me, but Stacy and Colleen do. I'm a control freak. So I love everything that you
We all are a little bit. Like I definitely have my moments more than
But I often see it as like the business side when you're self-publishing is taking care of the artist side.
Mhm.
And it sounds like this was very much art in a vulnerable time for you that made you very happy. And you were like, I'm going to protect this. I know what this artist needs. I'm going to protect the artist and I'm going to be the publisher this time. So yeah, it's a kismet. It was meant to happen.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, modesty aside, like I'm relatively savvy in terms of marketing or branding or getting my name out there. I felt that I could find a readership for this book. I didn't know how big it would be. I didn't know how big what the ceiling would be for it, but I was confident enough in myself and my abilities that I could reach that readership. Whether or not they bought it and liked it, that was up to the artist side. But as an independent writer, you run a small business. That's the bottom line. We're all control freaks to some extent, and you need to be in charge of that small business 24/7.
Yeah. Do you know your Clifton strengths by any chance?
I do not.
Okay. I'm just gonna, it's not, it's a good thing. I just re-looked mine up because an author, I was on a call with another author and she was like, she called me an activator. And I was like, that one doesn't sound familiar, but I'm an achiever. But I feel like you might also be an achiever or a strategist, which are my top two. But do you guys know yours, Colleen and Stacy?
No. I definitely know I'm not. Being friends with you, I realize I'm a C student. You're like the A+. I'm the kid in the back of the class going, can I cheat off you?
Yeah, it's pros and cons. The achiever is somebody who finds worth and productivity, like self-worth, which is actually something that I'm actively trying to change. Like I don't necessarily need to be productive in order to feel worthy. So it's pros and cons. So just because my plate is full and you like to have yours only half full, there's pros and cons to that because you have a lot of like self-worth that is just continuous, even if you aren't doing. And I'm trying to learn it's okay to recharge. That recharging is actually productive because it can help me.
Oh, I don't recharge.
I don't either.
I don't recharge.
I go all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just half-assing it.
You are not. Yeah. That's one of the most badass, prolific fantasy writers. Like, are you kidding?
By the way, I'm googling this and doing like whatever test it takes. Like as soon as we get off the,
it's so many questions.
As soon as we get off, I'm gonna figure out what the hell I am.
It's a ton of questions, and then they give you like reports afterwards, which for me, I love.
See, then I'd find that like I'm one of the HD, like the people that loses interest after 15 questions. I'm out. I'm done.
This is too much.
Because because I always see those little questionnaires on Facebook. They're like, oh, 20 questions and you'll find out what character you are. I'm like, okay, I'll try it in like 50 questions. I'm like, oh, so I end up quitting them. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I'll be whatever character I want to be.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I write
Good
my
answer.
own story,
Good
damn
answer.
it.
Yeah.
This kind of surprise success in the romance world with this monster comedy. What's coming next? Like, what are your thoughts or how you feeling about all this?
I'm feeling good. So
Hey.
this is so hard because you guys are so nice. So like there are
We're not
no,
always
it's like,
nice.
No,
Yeah.
at the
We just
moment you're
look
nice, you
that
could
way.
turn on, you're like a rattlesnake. You could turn on me at any moment. This is why I'm not turning my back on you guys.
Yeah.
Just give us a
No,
few tequila shots.
there are things going on with the dating and dismemberment books that are exciting that I can't really talk about yet because they're not finalized yet. But I am working on the second book in the series that will come out this year. I don't have the exact date yet, but I'm working on that. That's going to come out this year. I also have been putting together an outline for a dark romantic thriller trilogy that I really
Excellent.
like.
Right up my
I sort
alley.
of the idea was it's sort of like three books. They're not like sequels to each other, but it's sort of like standalones all in the same universe with kind of crossover characters. And because my background is sort of in thrillers, I want it to be like really, really thrilling, but then also like really, really spicy too. And I have this like perfect idea. I know all the characters in them. I know how they're going to kind of intersect the three books. And I have this goal to get it out. I think I'm going to Sinners and Stardust in August, and the organizer, Hey Jen, is like asking me to like have it out ready for that. I don't know if that's realistic, but my goal is potentially to have it out this year, and I would try to do it. And I would do it myself because I like this story, and I feel like this is sort of like Dating and Dismemberment was sort of like very off the beaten path. I feel like this is the kind of book that is like right down that path, and I feel like I could have a ton of fun writing it, and I also feel like it would probably have an easier time finding an audience than the other book. The other book did, but I feel like this one is sort of like right in a lot of people's wheelhouses.
Yeah.
So that you said spicy, huh?
Yes.
So a lot of bouncing tits and all the
oh my god, yeah, every woman boobs breastily.
boobs that never move when you're lying down.
The guy walks into the room and he's just kind of like that, like hanging. Yeah, it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. Like she tries to run away from him and he like kind of like lassos her with his penis and pulls it towards her. It's kind of stuff like that. Realistic.
Sadly, there's probably something out there that actually already
realistic. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Octopus penis that latches around her. Yeah.
It's funny. The one biggest complaint I always get about Dating and Dismemberment is that it's not really spicy. And I didn't write it spicy. So like I wrote it to be kind of like rom-com. I also like, I was like, do I write monsters having just like hardcore get down monkey sex? I don't know, that feels weird to me. But
And
that was sort of like that.
want,
Honestly, yes. But like all these nice people like posted reviews on TikTok. I love the characters. It was so fun and funny. It's like I wish there was more smut because I'm a degenerate. And I'm like,
yeah.
So
TikTok though is its own world with Chili Peppers. Like, I mean, I think I found even like we were talking with people that do YA, and it just we're saying like YA in a Chili Pepper world. It seems like in TikTok.
No, I would never. I wrote a YA. I talked about this a little bit on TikTok. I wrote a YA novel that I may do myself. There's like one actual like publisher potentially interested, but I would never write YA spicy. First of all, like I'm a dude in my 40s. Like I don't want to write about like 17-year-olds having sex. That's just creepy to me. I feel like I can write a really good story, and this book has like a romance element, but I don't know. I feel like I'd be a giant freaking creepy dude if I wrote about like
a lot
two
of
teenagers.
people out there that don't want that. It's okay. Just because TikTok world says they want it doesn't mean there's even more people out there that enjoy the other.
People on TikTok are gonna be pissed that I'm not writing like about 17-year-olds having hardcore sex. Like that says way more about them than me.
Yeah, that's a problem for them. That's
which I think you need to do like a funny thing, because the 17-year-olds, I love how these women write them like they are the best sex guy. I'm like, dude, you guys sex at 17, these guys had no fucking clue. And I love how they write them like they just have like hardcore like porn sex, and you're just like,
I'm gonna plead the fifth year as a former 17-year-old boy.
But that's not true. Like, like 17, you're not having this kind of level sex, people.
No.
I don't know about no. I came into this world fully formed, knowing what I was doing.
But I think that's a TikTok waiting to happen, right? About women writing these young men that are like,
So
Well,
no,
wait,
they're like falling asleep in hot pizza.
I used to read YA and women's fiction before getting into smutty romance, and then it was just downhill from there.
yeah.
Now I'm
break
addicted.
break the cherry thing.
Exactly.
See, I go all around. I read everything.
I do jump, actually.
Yeah, I do. I genre jump all the time.
I don't.
the time.
The only book that I've read other than romance in the last decade is essentialism and like some like manifestation type books and things like that, but not fiction. Well, yeah.
I love horror thrillers.
Yeah, Sean
romance.
loves them.
I read it all.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll dive in and then I'll be like on a genre hunt and oh my God, maybe I'll write something other than romance. That sounds like a sin. That sounds like I just broke the law saying that. Like,
They're
don't
gonna
worry,
grab their
guys.
torches and
Literally,
You'll be punished for that, Willow.
Depends on who's giving the punishment. No.
Maybe worth
Husband's
it.
like,
Yeah, Sean's downstairs. He's like, I got the kids. Knock it off. No. But what's it like jumping genres then? Like,
For
mean,
me.
yeah, for you.
Yeah.
writing him. Yeah.
Honestly, I think I need, like, I don't think I knew how much I needed to jump genres until I did, because I think I had written so many dark thrillers that, like, there is humor in them, but they're dark. It's sort of like if you read, like, or watched, like, Mare of Easttown. Like, there are a couple funny parts, but it's kind of dark and it's not really uplifting. And I've written a lot of books like that, and I don't think I realized how much I needed to jump genres until I did. And that book brought something out in me that just felt good. And when I think about this other series, like the sort of like dark romantic thriller one, it excites me. And there's gonna be, bad stuff happening, and there's gonna be violence, and there's gonna be trauma, but there's also gonna be like really great banter and really hot sex. And like it excites me to write, and it excites me to people to read. It does not excite me for my mom to eventually read it, but everything else I'm excited about.
Maybe you could give her a censored version. Like, you don't get these pages,
I'm gonna give her a copy and like cut out pages like 18 to 30, like 111 to 120. And if she asks, I'll just be like, oh yeah, like printer mistake.
My grandma reads mine, and then
my mom edits mine.
Have you ever written out of romance? I know you write different subgenres, of romance.
No, I think when I was younger, I did like more adventure kid stories. So eventually I feel like when I'm 80 and I'm not, hitting on every, guy at the old folks home, I'll be like, hey, cutie. I'll probably go back to that because it was like about like younger girls, like at our age when I started writing it, I was like in 8th grade or something like that. No, sorry, 3rd grade. And it was more of like how girls, we were very tomboy. So it was like, like we'd spend the night and we'd pretend our bunk beds went up to space. And the next morning the mom would, did you go there or not? Like kind of thing. So I wanted the adventure stories for these young girls because I felt like at that time, it was always girls like were very girly, and I grew up in the country, and I was like, I wanted more like, we can do the same adventures as boys could. So I wanted to eventually do kids books, but I'm in this right now and it's doing well for me. So I'm just going to go till I run out of steam, and then I'll try something else.
I love that you just said that. Evie wrote a story 2 days ago. It was just pictures, no text to it, but it was like, it's, one of the characters kills, like the lights go out, and then it's like, who's holding the knife? And then one of them's dead. And like, so she's like turning the page, and it's like,
doing murder.
Yeah. And it's literally who turned the lights out. And then you turn the page and it's just eyeballs and a knife.
Ooh.
it.
She's 8.
Yeah.
My daughter's 8. So maybe one day she's going to write a mystery thriller. But that's amazing. Like, you were always going to be a writer.
Killer.
Or that. Yeah. I've written that. Maybe she'll learn from Mama.
No, I'm saying she's going to become a serial killer.
Oh, I'll protect my baby. I don't know.
Either
By
way,
the
we're
way,
so proud.
geriatric mysteries are really hot right now. So if you want to start writing like geriatric romances about like hitting on all the dudes at the old folks home, like there's a market for that. Don't sell
Yeah.
yourself short.
There's a
There's
market for everything. If you can
Yeah,
find
like-
dino porn, you can find
Oh yeah, like
anything.
I'm gonna,
That
I'm gonna
was
short circuit your
huge.
pacemaker.
Yeah.
Stuff like
yeah,
that.
years ago, it was like a million, like multi-million-dollar industry to be into
And now
dino
it's
porn.
The Door. Something about the door.
What?
Have you seen that?
I have
The
not
door
seen it, but I
transforms
don't like
into
where my head is
a
going.
man or something. I don't know. I was
Oh, I thought it was gonna be like
okay.
I thought it was like people being spicy with doors.
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
I
I
was
was like,
like,
doorknobs aren't.
inanimate
when I
objects.
No,
Yeah.
I think it is.
I'm gonna hide my water bottle.
yeah. When I have a
There's-
nightmare at 3 a.m., Colleen, it's you who I'm gonna
Yeah, I was
message.
like, okay, there's lonely, and then there's like, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
COVID did
For a
happen.
woman in
People were
real
alone.
life that they had to call the fire department that she got stuck on a fire hydrant because she was trying to like do something to it. Like
Oh
they had
my
to come help her.
goodness.
Like
She had
it's just, like,
goals.
there's lonely, and then there's like,
She had a lot of confidence
Wow.
too. Let's just give
I'm
her.
thinking she read about some like Gwyneth Paltrow cleanse system, but didn't have the money to do it, and just went the fire hydrant route.
oh. We think
Am I
we're
being
That
kicked off
took
the
a
podcast
turn.
yet?
Yeah, I know, right? Can we also
If you need to kick me
do?
off, if you need to kick me off the podcast, I understand.
Well, but I was just
No.
thinking before you bail on us.
Yeah, I was like, this is normal for
Yeah.
us. You should see us at the bar when we
Yeah.
just take member.
I love to ask, and it's okay to pass on the low one. But do you have like a high and a low in your experience to share with all the upcoming authors or the readers who are curious about the behind the scenes? And it's okay if you want to pass on the low. But we do find that it can be really inspiring.
Yeah. So I'll do a high, which was my very first book deal ever. I wrote a book called The Mark. And it was the first. I'd written 2 books before then. One was like a terrible coming of age novel. I think it's like a requirement that everyone writes a terrible coming of age novel. And then I wrote this like sort of pseudo mystery coming of age story that wasn't very good, that went on submission and didn't sell. So I wrote 2 full books that didn't sell. And then I wrote this book called The Mark. And it was on submission to publish. Like I got a literary agent. It was on submission forever, to the point where I was writing the next book. And I was like, this book isn't going to sell. I'm going to write the next book. And lo and behold, a year after it had been on submission for a year, my agent happened to have lunch with an editor and pitched the editor of my book. The editor loved the idea, asked to take a look at it, and they made an offer, a 3-book deal offer, like within a week or 2. So I went from a book that was on submission for like literally an entire year that I'd essentially given up on, to the point where I was writing the next book. And then all of a sudden I had a 3-book deal for 3 books in the series, and I was able to take the story that I come up with for that next book and put it into that series, because I love the story itself. So that was my high, just going from that, like the crushing of like, this is never going to happen, to not only is it happening, but they actually want to make a commitment.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big high.
That's amazing. Yeah. I can feel
Yeah.
that revigorating hope almost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially when you
So
think
that's
it's kind
when,
of
like,
lost, like a year, you're like,
If you ever think there, I tell every like, it can. I know so many people who've been on submission for like a year, and then something happens. There's a great science fiction writer named Mike Chen, and I think his first book was on submission for like 2 years, and it went to acquisitions boards like 4 times. I don't know if you or your listeners know what acquisitions boards are. Basically, if an editor gets the submission in and they like it, they bring it to what's called an acquisitions board at their publishing house, where they send it around to people, other editors and publicists and marketing people, to see what they all think. And essentially they need to get a green light from this entire board to make an offer on it. He'd been to acquisitions board like 4 times and got turned down every single one of them. And again, like, figured this book was never going to sell. And then it sells and became like a USA Today bestseller.
Yeah.
So there are stories like that. So I always tell writers, like, you never know what that book you gave up on could be a bestseller.
So true.
And now you want a low.
yeah, let's
if
bring it-
you
we're
wanna
gonna, like,
talk about
about
it, yeah.
I'll talk about it. It was
Drinking tequila.
yeah.
Was
Oh,
it
that
the
was just me.
doorknob
It was-
thought just a couple
I'm
minutes ago?
trying to reach through and grab your beer. I'm going to steal your beer.
Yeah.
So it was when my Rachel Marin series got dropped. That was a real crushing low. I got signed to write 2 books in this series, Hideaway and A Stranger at the Door. And I love these books so much. It's about a single mother whose life is torn apart when her husband is brutally murdered. And because the killer goes free in a technicality, she has to change her identity and the identities of her small children, move to a small town to start her life again. But in the meantime, she sort of like transforms herself into this protector because she doesn't believe society can protect her family anymore. But then when there's a murder in her small town, she decides she's the only one who can investigate it. And how do you balance sort of like searching for a killer while raising two small children? Anyway, I loved it. I love the books. They sold together like 160,000 copies. Both books earned out their advances within like the first month of publication. And I got strung along for a really long time by the publisher. They kept telling me like, we want to do more with you. We want more books in the series. But it was like every time I submitted a proposal or something, it was like, well, this isn't right. The next one. This isn't right. We want the next one. And this went on for about a year. And finally, I had to talk with my agent, and it was like, we had one more proposal that we sent to them for a new book. And we said, like, at that point, we'd sent them at least 6. And it was so weird because they kept saying, we want to keep publishing, but they never actually accepted anything I wrote. And finally, we sent them one more project. And again, for like the 6th time over a year, they were like, this isn't the right one. And at that point, we had to have like a heart to heart. And it was like, it's over. Like, for whatever reason, they're not saying they're dropping you, but they're dropping me. And they dropped me. And for this is a series that I wanted to write 20 books in that series. I love that character in that world so much, and it was just devastating. And it was mind-boggling because like the book sold 160,000 copies. They were nominated for awards. They got starred reviews.
Yeah, like, what?
And it was like, it wasn't even that they sold badly or that the reviews were bad. It was just I never knew why. And to never have that kind of closure and to just get dropped and strung along like that crushed me. And honestly, I mean, the silver lining is that Dating and Dismemberment was sort of born out of that misery. That's like my like misery happiness.
Very artist.
It is.
Very artist thing to do.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about publishing is that you can have something that you think does really well, but it's like there's always the sense of the rug might get pulled out from under you. You know, unless you're like a huge mega bestseller to the point where you are actually contributing to the company's bottom line, you never feel fully stable. And at least doing that book on my own, I was like, this is going to rise or fall based on me and nobody else.
Yeah.
And with traditional publishers, at least from the romance aspect, they have been known to drop the bag and not make the wisest decisions. And nobody knows why. Sometimes we can say it's like in the romance field, we can say it's like misogyny because they don't want to have explicit sex or something of that manner. But I would say that's a them problem, not a you problem. And for you to keep going with those monster rom-coms because they excite me too. That sounds amazing.
I know.
Thank you. Hey, so my plan is for 3 books in this series. So the first book is Dating and Dismemberment, and it's going to sort of progress along the relationship, where the second one's going to be about the most monstrously unhinged wedding planning to ever happen. Just like if you've ever heard of of a bridezilla, imagine the bridezilla as an actual monster. So it's just going to be total bonkers, an unhinged wedding. Yeah. The first one they're dating, and the second one they're getting married. And it's going to be absolutely crazy. And then the third one they may have a baby. Who knows?
Yeah. I love it.
Spoiler alert. Okay.
That brings a whole new set of complications.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a if you read Dating and Dismemberment, there is my main character's best friend does have a baby in it, and it is the most ludicrous baby. Like the baby is born and it's like already a fully formed disaster monster. It's like this cute little like bundle, but it's also this like devastatingly powerful monster. So
it sounds like my 3-year-old.
Like
my 5-year-old. My 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So where will we see you this year?
Yeah.
Where are you appearing at events or?
So I will be at Readers Take Denver. I will be at the bar depending on how crazy you guys get, because I don't know if I can keep up with you.
Yeah. We'll take it easy on you.
Yeah.
No, we won't. No, we won't.
Nice.
Come down with us.
Like, I'm a parent now. If you'd see me at conferences like back in the day, in my 20s and like 10 years ago, like I was closing those places down. So I'll bring that back.
It's so funny because it's usually the moms and the wives and stuff like that that comes to these events that are the ones going crazy, and I'm the one going, Wow.
because they got to get out. They've been bottled
Like,
up for like months.
yeah.
My God, yeah.
Yeah. The only time I
don't
leave
wanna-
is for work.
I don't want to feel
Same.
I don't want to feel their headache in the next morning.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's the recovery nowadays. I'd be like, I'd be there except the recovery.
So I'll be at Readers Take Denver in April. I'll be at Sinners and Stardust in August in Boston, and I'll be at Author Nation in Las Vegas in November.
I'll
And
see
I'll
you at-
probably
I'll see you there at Author Nation and at Readers Take
That-
Denver. But yeah.
and that was formerly 20 books to 50K, right?
Yes. Yeah. It
It's
was
sort of
just
like
new
yeah.
owners.
So like
Yeah.
I've heard really good things about that. Like I've been in sort of like the mystery thriller community for so long, and I've gone to every one of those conferences over and over and over again. And to like, be totally frank, I'm tired of them. So I'm really excited to get out there and go to like totally new conferences, totally new locations, totally different readerships and audiences and writers. So I'm like,
Same.
I'm a little nervous to be honest. Well, I'm a little nervous to be honest, because this is like I've never met you guys. I've never met your friends and all these other writers. I've corresponded with them like on TikTok, but it's weird because I'm a little nervous about them. I'm excited, but I'm nervous.
It should be fun. It should be massive. So don't worry.
Yeah.
There will be corners where you can just sit down and like have a good cry.
And rock.
And then
Have a good cry. Well,
I
it's weird 'cause
remember
I tell
my first RWA, I didn't know anybody. I knew literally one author who had messaged me about going. And I sat down against the wall and I just sat there for a few minutes looking around because I had so much imposter syndrome and it was so massive. But it was excellent event, absolutely no regrets. I picked myself up, kept going, and it was great for the connections. And like you said, there's going to be a lot of new people, a lot of new experiences. It should be really
And
fun.
Readers Take Denver, we'll just adopt you. We'll be like, come on
Yes,
with us.
exactly.
Works for me.
Time with us.
Yeah.
and it's funny because like people don't believe this, but I'm actually kind of an introvert. So I'm like a 6'3" former football player who's also an introvert. So I'll be like the big dude hiding behind like a potted plant. If like my
There's that one picture of that elephant. The elephant that's behind the tree.
Exactly.
Me
Be
too,
like,
yeah.
like
That's me
it'll
too.
be like Jason, you're not hiding, we can all see you, and I'll be like,
No, you can't. No,
leave
you
me
can't.
alone.
And where
I'm
can we
totally an
follow you?
introvert,
Obviously, you're on TikTok as Jersey Book Guy.
TikTok,
I
Jersey
think
Book
Daddy.
Guy.
I think Daddy Books works better.
Book Daddy. I'll be honest. When my sister told me the Book Daddy thing, there was like a small part of me that was like, I'm
You
gonna
should've kept
change
it.
it to Book Zaddy just to like mess with her a little bit. Yeah.
Well, all I could
So
think
there's,
when
like-
you said Book Daddy, I was like, how many like inappropriate comments did you
I was
get?
like,
Yeah, because I was like there are some unhinged ladies.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
the I get a fair amount now, and that's just as Jersey Book Guy. Like
Yeah.
I think Book Daddy was like before I really had an audience there, but
Mhm.
like there I get a fair amount now. So
We
I
had
can
a-
only imagine what
Yeah,
I
it
can
would
only imagine what it would have been like when I was Book Daddy.
have you
Yeah.
got notice on the street yet? Like going, you're on TikTok. Have you gotten picked?
No, but I think it's only because I live in like a very small town.
Yeah. I
So,
bet you
yeah.
will, readers. They'll be like,
Oh yeah.
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 Mhm. Be
Yeah.
prepared.
And we'll be like, he's a book daddy.
Yeah.
If you guys have
Post
any
a lot of, like,
questions
awkward
at all,
selfies.
oh, sorry. If you guys have any questions at all or comments, please leave them down below. We will make sure that Jason sees them. If you have any questions, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And where else can they follow you if they're not on TikTok?
I'm on Instagram at Jason Pinter, Twitter/X at Jason Pinter. To be honest, I'm more active on TikTok and Instagram stories. My website is www.jasonpinter.com. I'm on Goodreads, all those good places.
Oh, you
Yeah.
said the bad place.
You can follow
Yeah,
me-
I
you can follow-
literally,
you can
and then
follow me down-
followed it up with a good place.
Yeah, you can follow me down the street as long as you're discreet and nice and not creepy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had so
Yes.
much fun with you.
Thank
That
you
was
guys.
great.
This was awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. This was a blast. See you in Denver.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yes. See you in Denver.